Hello YouTube, welcome to, I believe, the 25th of these behind the screen videos. Today it's going to be just another dungeon building workshop. Hopefully chat will help me out with some ideas. If I get stuck, I do what I normally do and just write evocative titles and see if that, spurs any inspiration. But as ever, we need to begin with the recap from last week. So if you've been here anytime, or if you've watched any of my videos on YouTube, you'll know that the players recently beat a noble of the city that they work for and have rescued his family, who he apparently buried alive to keep them safe, and are on their way back to Scour with the proof of his death and kind of general confusion about what the future holds for them. So not much happened last week. It was pretty much just all character development, which was great from my point of view because I was really tired and it meant I could just sit back and let events play out as they would at the tabletop. The players learned a bit about Burning Stormchaser, the party monk, his backstory, or monk/sorcerer, his backstory. And the player party discovered Razric, the party warlock paladin, discovered a rabbit hanging from a snare and rescued it and gave it to Jinnet, the noble's youngest daughter, as a pet. Burning Stormchaser made her a cage to keep it in on the journey back, and the session ended with party being woken up in the ruins of a watchtower at dawn by a loud knocking on the door. That's really all it is. So if you bear with me 1 second, I will amend the recap accordingly. I'm going to put it in my main monitor so I don't have to look to the side constantly to make sure I'm typing correctly. The party learned more about Burning Stormchaser, his isolated upbringing, and exile in the wake of a disaster. Period. And there we go. That's the recap. As I say, not much happened. It was mostly just in-character conversation, character development, which I felt that maybe one of my players doesn't find as attractive as they otherwise might, as the other players. But it's a fine balance of keeping all your players happy all the time. So I was happy with the way that the session went, and tonight will be more of a I suppose narrative and possibly action driven session. One of my players is bringing a friend who kind of wants to get a taste of the game to see if they want to pursue it any further, and it's a good opportunity for them to do so with the quest being over, the players having leveled up recently, and all that stuff. Now, so usually on these streams, I either do campaign prep for Waking the Gods, which is the Monday game, or the world building stuff for Ingun. Today, I'm not going to do either of those. You'll note from the title, this is a dungeon building workshop for a dungeon called the Temple of the Waves. As part of my employment with the local board game cafe, I run a 6-week campaign regularly of, at the minute, Dungeons and Dragons. In the future, that may change. I'm considering talking to my boss about it, but for now, it is 6 weeks of Dungeons and Dragons with one group, like a couple of weeks off, and then six weeks with a new group. I'm just going to go and check the post because I'm expecting mail at some point, so I'll be right back. Weird. 2 cards for my fiance, who isn't, like, it's not her birthday anytime soon. Maybe they're Easter cards. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, so the Temple of the Waves. So the current group that I'm running for on the 6 weeks Thursday games have decided that the city that they... I should rewind a little. So the idea was that it would be a roughly comparable experience every time, but kind of to cut down on my preparation would be kind of the same rough ideas every time. That would drive me crazy doing the same thing 6 weeks, week off, and then the same thing again. So I gave the same setup in that the player party are doing their citizens' duty and serving as civil servants in a wide variety of organizations which they can choose from for another city in the same universe. And on the night that a coup happens, this is related to the coup which happened in Scour in my home game, which is how the player party ended up in the Shadowfell. So it is set at this point almost a month before my Monday game. But the current group that I'm walking through it have decided that they're going to take the information that they have, and they realised correctly that it was a diversion, that the fires being set throughout the city by cultists was a diversion, and that the actual threat was to the king. So they are trying to make their way through a tunnel, I guess secret tunnel beneath the main temple, which will get them to the palace, to where the king is, without being seen and bypassing all of the guards in the way, because the guards don't think anything's wrong, so they're stopping people entering, or that's what the party believes. What they don't realise, what they haven't vocalised, they may have realised this independently, but what they haven't vocalised at the tabletop is that the guards have just been replaced by cultists. They've been killed. They did mention something along these lines, but then didn't actually go to investigate it, so I'm not sure if they have worked it out. But anyway, so in this incarnation of the city, the first one worshipped Tyr, because one of the players rolled a cleric and decided that they worshipped Tyr, so that was fine and good. Everything religious and kind of all the civic buildings reflected that. And then this player party decided that there were no clerics, so they decided when it became relevant that the city worships Umberlee. Umberlee is one of the Forgotten Realms deities of like the sea and tides. Traditionally kind of, I think, lawful evil. Traditionally evil, anyway, because of the unpredictability and the nature of the sea and breaking stuff. I can check that, because it might be relevant for the puzzles. Chaotic evil. There we go. Goddess of the sea and tides and whatnot. So, because it is not an evil city, she's been moved to chaotic neutral, just so that there is a reason for people to worship her. But the entrance that the player party found was beneath the sacrificial pool in her temple. So it's going to be a sequence of rooms with puzzles and traps themed around the tides and water and various other things. I realise I've got PDFs that might help, so I'll try and find those while talking. Ideally, I want 3 at the end of this. I will be aiming for more, because depending on how long 3 takes, because I like to have puzzles worked out in advance, because otherwise you get into situations I had the last time I ran this campaign with my first group, where I improvised puzzles that either don't necessarily make sense. Fortnite Dummy, you want to hear a funny D&D story? Okay, so I guess it depends on what you mean by funny, but Last week, I rejoined the game. We had a brief interlude where our characters accidentally inhaled a lot of psychotropic drugs while trying to rescue some people, and passed out, and kind of had their consciousnesses projected into big cats nearby, and the big cats nearby were kind of acting as guardians for the local area, and to spread the news about the undead threat in the local area, we decided that oh, you asked if I wanted to hear one. I do. I always like funny D&D stories. That's pretty funny. It's not as funny as Sir Barrington. I'm a big fan of Sir Barrington. If you don't know it, it's probably worth a search. Search engine of your choice. What was I looking for? That's the wrong folder. That's why I'm confused. This is still the wrong... Where did I put the darn PDFs? There it is. I'll finish my D&D story anyway. Yes, so the other players, because I wasn't able to make the game, decided that to spread the warning about this undead threat, they would find a baby and kill them, and then leave an obvious trail from the baby to the undead, which, you know, makes some sense if you're big cats. So they stumbled across the player party, almost killed the party sorcerer, who is a halfling, so a baby, and destroyed my character's cloak of elvenkind. It's pretty amusing, I personally think, but obviously it's up to you if you find that kind of thing amusing. Is this the right table page? Yes, it is. Oh, good. I hope that was amusing, although yours is equally amusing. Where was I? Yeah, so I want at least 3 chambers, because that gives me probably 2 hours of content at the tabletop, which is about the time we have to play. But I won't be sad if I end up making more, because having more is always good, especially if it means I can use this dungeon again, really. So that being said, let's get some titles down. As I say, I want 3 rooms based on the tides, so just for now, full tide, what the hell, high tide, low tide, and then slack water, which is, you know, when it's when it's not moving in or out. And then I did. We'll go through for these 3 first, I think, and then see what we get. Yeah, cool. So high tide, I had an idea of. I did like the story. Thank you very much. I'm always up for funny D&D stories. I do enjoy. What is it? Your player said what, or something like that on Tumblr when I come across the cross-posting on Facebook. And I know there's loads of subreddits about funny D&D stories, so thank you for sharing it with me. I also like the druid turning into a tree, the god saying, that tree wasn't there yesterday, and the druid saying, been here for weeks, and the god's like, okay, the tree would know best. It requires a certain kind of flexibility from the GM, but there we go. That was it. Hidden pressure plates, plated beneath the water, question mark, and then low tide. I thought I could do like a shipwreck thing with hidden coins scattered around the room. So players actually have to go out and look. They can't just run dice rolls. They actually have to look in the right places to find the coins that they need to complete the like a mural or a display of some kind, which will open the door for them. And then slack water. Let's go with maybe levers linked by balance tests. Oh, balance checks. Sorry, I was playing the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game today, and they call it tests instead of checks, so I'm keep getting my grammar mixed up. Question mark. So that one kind of maybe, like, there are a couple of levers scattered throughout the around the walls of the room, and because it's slack water, the room is full of pits full of water essentially, and then the players can walk along the ledges between the pits. If you fall in the pit, something happens. If you succeed on the acrobatics check to get to the right lever, or to get to a lever, you can pull the lever. If you get the right one, something good happens. If you get the wrong one, you get maybe pushed into the water. This is not an opportunity for me to repeat my trolling lever room, which, if anyone doesn't know this, if you ever want to annoy your players but derive a great deal of amusement at the same time, get them into the mindset where every door ahead of them is locked, and then have them enter a room. The walls are covered in levers, and there's one lever in the middle of the floor. What they don't know is that the door at the end is unlocked already. Pulling any of the levers, apart from the one in the middle of the floor, will lock the door. Pulling the one in the middle of the floor will reset all the levers and unlock the door. It took my players, I want to say about 20 minutes to figure it out, and they figured it out through accident more than anything. It was funny. They enjoyed it afterwards. So you need to know your players, and you need to know if they will enjoy that kind of thing. Anyway, that's by the by. I'm going to elaborate on this one because it is the one I spoke about most recently. So, DC. Because I do like to make resources that anyone can use, I just generally put appropriate DC. Levers line the wall. Hang on. There we go. Levers line the walls of this long, low room. Sorry, please excuse me. The floor at first glance. Nope. There we go. Appears to be underwater. I'm always up for a funny D&D story Fortnite dummy. But upon closer inspection, is a series of flooded pits connected by narrow walls. So there's your little piece of descriptive fluff, descriptive prose, to set the scene for GMs who like that kind of thing. It also helps to tie the different components of the puzzle together in a way. I also like it because it sometimes gives me more because it sometimes gives me more ideas about kind of the direction I can go with the puzzle in a way. Much like vocalizing on stream my thoughts helps me to approach situations from a different point of view. Sorry, I realized that I never sent a fairly important going live message, or checked to see if I needed to send one. So I'm just taking care of that now. There we go. So that will kind of make a Steam chime in a few moments, presumably. Get rid of that anyway. Put that over there. And continue on with what I was doing. So, door at the far end of sorry, just replying to this. There we go. Right, anyway, door at the far end of this room is opened by pulling the correct levers. Levers can be accessed by walking along narrow wall, tops of the narrow walls with an appropriate acrobatics check, even acrobatics check of an appropriate DC. So maybe if I want to play D&D. That's pretty good. That's very much in the no one can sound the alarm if no one's left alive school of stealth, which which is perfectly valid way of playing stealth. Right, so that's all taken care of. I guess for sake of completeness, shall we say, I will go for there are X levers where X equals PCs times 3. So I'll have 15, no, PCs times 2. I think it's 10, 8 or 10 for an average player party. And with we'll say 3 of them. With Y, where Y equals PCs minus 2. Should probably add number of PCs there as well. Y being correct. They should probably have a clue to denote which levers are the correct ones, which ones are the incorrect ones. The stonework on the top of the wall below the correct lever is crosshatched to allow easier access in a hurry, playing into the idea that this is an escape route, like in fiction, but it'd just be to allow easier access for people who know what they're doing. So this reduces the DC by 1, and requires an appropriate... I tell you what, when I'm typing on stream, my brain just melts. I just forget how to spell words. Investigation check. Appropriate but hard DC to notice. While the walls below the incorrect levers collapse. Nope. Deleted too many letters there. When the lever is pulled. Right, there should be a punishment for pulling the wrong lever, so the players think about it logically. But I don't think it should be too harsh, sorry, because that might dissuade them from exploring, actually taking the time to investigate. So obviously they're going to end up in the water. Could just be that the water kind of pulls them in so they can't get out. Put that for now. Might change it later. Any character who enters the water must make an appropriate strength. Nope, that's the one. Saving throw. Appropriate DC. Although it should be medium. Because I don't want to put values to this in case it's used by people with high level parties. So there's that. To pull themselves out. Characters in the water take 1d4 cold damage every minute. Please do excuse me. I apparently have the wind today. Also, not sure if my viewer count is accurate or people do just keep appearing and then leaving for whatever reason. Like, it's fine. It's their day to do with as they will. Just odd. Very odd. Anyway, characters in the water take 1d4 cold damage every minute. Rolled after 1 minute of immersion has passed and at the start of every subsequent minute. So that should give players enough to every minute, maybe. It could be one every 30 seconds. Because with a 5-player party, they're not really going to take the damage, especially if people are trying to help pull them out. I'll take 1 cold damage every round. However, alter this value for higher level characters. There we go. I'm constantly bemused by the Twitch view account system. Anyway, by the by. So, door at 500 room is opened by pulling the correct levers. Levers can be accessed by walking on the tops of narrow walls with an acrobatics check for an appropriate DC. There are X levers where X equals the number of PCs times 2, with Y, where Y equals the number of PCs minus 2, being correct. Stonework on top of the wall below the correct levers is cross-hatched to allow easier access. This reduces the DC by 1 and requires an investigation check. Appropriate but hard DC to notice. While the walls below the incorrect levers collapse when the lever is pulled. Any character who enters the water must make a strength saving throw, appropriate/medium DC, to pull themselves out. Characters in the water take 1 cold damage every round. Alter this value for higher level characters. That seems fair for now. So I will get rid of this line and this line. Low tide, Control I for italics, and then it will be this cavernous room is larger than it ought to be, with shipwrecks, with the wrecks of 3 ships, scattered is the wrong word, laying broken and worn across the irregular sandy floor. Door at the far end of this room is opened by completing a mural found in the wreckage of the central ship. The mural requires 8 coins to be found from among the wrecks and inserted into the correct position. Okay, so maybe have a list of the coins and what they have on them, and then the correct order, and then some suggested hiding places, perhaps. So coins. 1. Wave. 2. Oh, please excuse that. That was embarrassing. 2. Storm cloud. 3. 3. Seaweed. 4. Birds. 5. I put arrow/crossbow bolt. I'll put arrow, because then the players might take that for a compass thing instead of an actual arrow. But I'm leaning towards maybe we're going to be going with kind of like a Rime of the Ancient Mariner thing, where you tell a story of a sailor killing a 7. So 7 would be sailor or person, and an 8. Hourglass. And then coin number 6. Fire. Correct order. So, after a long journey, coin 8. A sailor, coin 7. Kills, coin 5. A bird, coin 4. For food, coin 6. And Umberly summons a storm. That's coin 2. To flood the ship, coin 1. And sink it. Coin 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, so perhaps when on successful completion of this puzzle, there's like a magical memory sequence that reenacts, I guess is the right word, that displays this happening for the players, so they kind of figure out what happened, perhaps, and then possible hiding places. Possible hiding places. Crow's nest. Wheel. Cabin. Galley. I'm not going to assign numbers to these. I'm just going to throw out possible places these could be found, and there are 3 ships, which capstan, anchor. There are 3 ships, which presumably when I run this will be 3 different kinds of ship. Crate, coin purse on like a skeleton or a body of some sort. Apparently that's 2 words. Live and learn. Coin purse. Figurehead. Sail, like a sewn into a pouch on the sail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Go with a couple more, just to mix it up a little bit. Keel, maybe one's hidden in a barnacle. Who knows? Anywhere that you could think that a player would have to actually maybe inspect, like I'm expecting the keel. Oh, there's a barnacle with something in it kind of situation. Just to avoid players being able to rely on dice rolls to solve the puzzle for them. Because while that works for some parties, I personally enjoy a level of engagement from my players that implies they're happy to be there and you know, interacting and engaged with the game. So there's that. So that's fine. I'm still not happy with my hidden pressure plates idea for high tide. I could have something that you have to track an initiative because there's like a whirlpool that's causing water surges that reveals different parts of the room, perhaps. That seems to me to make more sense to be down here. Storm. I will rename all of these to be more evocative, but a raging tempest is contained in the walls of this partially flooded room. A door. Sealed by an obviously magical lock. Rests within the far wall. can't bother to delete letters as appropriate, so I'll just do that. Door at the far end requires the PCs to find the parts of a broken key and assemble them in the lightning bolt dancing at the center of the storm. The storm itself reveals sections of the room by causing massive waves once around. It is advised to complete this room in an initiative order, with the storm acting at initiative 20, losing any ties. The storm reveals one of the following on each of its turns and covers the remaining features. There we go. So, 1. A patch of seaweed. 2. I'm thinking if we do an even number of these, maybe kind of roll randomly to determine which feature is revealed of the room. A broken chest. Its contents shining gold in the we'll just say its content scattered on the floor. Content scattered on the floor. None of its contents may be removed from the room unless deemed appropriate. How you deal with that is entirely up to you. My players will not be able to remove anything from the contents of this chest. 3. A cluster of I want to get the right word here. Please bear with me. Huh. They're just gastropods, huh? Nice. Let's put limpet. That'd be easier. Serve limpet and crusted rocks. Nope, nope. 4. 1, 2, 3, 3, 5. That's how one counts. Didn't you know that? I don't know why I've been putting spaces there. They really don't need to be. Nope, nope. 4. A small gully in the rocky floor of the room. 5. A school of fish. Capable of swimming in the air. 6. Strange noise from outside. Or next door. The reflected light of an unseen lighthouse. 7. A group of seabirds feeding on a dead fish. And 8, because I like the D8, I don't feel like it gets enough love. Just add that here actually. Roll 1d8 or choose. Last feature that the storm could reveal. Oh, a skeleton made of broken bones and kind of partially buried in a pile of rocks. Randomly determine or choose which feature of the room contains, or which features, plural, contain a part of the key. Each part of the key. Now, what is it? Oh, I can never remember the names of the different sections of the key. That's annoying. Can I have a nice little... I don't want locks. I want keys. Okay. Parts of a key. What a bizarre wiki. There we go. Bow, blade, and bitting. Ah, shoulder. No. We'll go with bow, blade, and tip just to simplify matters. Bow, which is the handle. Blade, which is main part of the key. And tip of the key. Requires a hard investigation. Appropriate / hard DC. Check to find. We'll put check before the brackets. Check to find. And must be placed, must be held within the lightning bolt. I was going to say that's not spelled correctly. Then the lightning bolt to for 2 rounds within the lightning bolt to fix. Each round, the character holding the key. Must either take 1dx, where x is an appropriate damage die, letting it scale. Lightning damage or attempt a Constitution saving throw of an appropriate DC. We'll say medium. The purpose isn't to, kill the characters in this room. It's just see if they can figure out a way to minimize damage taken or creative problem solving. Or attempt a Constitution saving throw. Dropping the key on a failure. And keeping hold of it on a success. So they can guarantee that they'll keep the key there, but they'll take some damage, or they can risk dropping the key and having to restart. And thus having to restart the key fixing process. So, raging tempest is contained within the walls of this partially flooded room. A door sealed by an obviously magical lock rests within the far wall. The door at the far end requires the PCs to find 3 parts of a broken key and assemble them in the lightning bolt dancing at the centre of the storm. The storm itself reveals sections of the room by causing massive waves once around. It is advised to complete this room in an initiative order, with the storm acting in initiative 20, losing any times. If we make it a .40 by 40 room. Reveals one of the following each of its turns. Roll 1d8 or choose, and covers the remaining features. Locations of which are determined by you, the GM, in whatever method you deem appropriate. Because you'll note that I'm not making a map for this. If I ever make a map for it, I might just say this is where feature 1 is, this is where feature 2 is, etc, etc. But until then, it's a text document available for anyone to use. Actually, I should. Yep. Too dark. Way too dark. I just want to get it set apart so it's clear that it's a table or a list of some kind. I hate black and white, but for now, for a rough draft, it'll work. Oh, please do excuse me. Right, anyway. The features: a patch of seaweed, a broken chest, its contents scattered on the floor. None of its contents may be removed from the room unless deemed appropriate. A cluster of limpid encrusted rocks. That should be hyphenated, I think. A small gully in the rocky floor of the room. A school of fish capable of swimming in the air. The reflected light of an unseen lighthouse. A group of seabirds feeding on a dead fish. A skeleton made of a group of seabirds perched on a sandbar feeding on... Why is... Skeleton made of broken bones, partially buried in part of rocks. Randomly determine or choose which features of the room contain a part of the key. Each part of the key, bow, blade, and tip, Requires an investigation check with an appropriate or hard DC to find, and must be held for 2 rounds within the lightning bolt to fix. Each round, the character holding the key must either take 1d(x), where x is an appropriate damage die, lightning damage, or attempt a constitution saving throw with an appropriate medium DC, dropping the key on a failure and thus having to restart the key fixing process and keeping hold of it on a success. Okay, still back up with the high tide idea. I still don't like the pressure plates beneath the water. I don't think the Dungeon Master's Guide has any relevant things, but I give it a go. There is a Kickstarter project I backed specifically for this kind of thing, and it just has not been finished yet. It's very annoying. Random dungeons, maps, inspiration. It doesn't really have a great selection of like puzzle ideas, is the problem. It's got traps, but not puzzles. Classes, purposes, history of the dungeon. None of it's really relevant. Features. Hazards. Yeah, none of it's really relevant. So, high tide. What happens at high tide? The water gets real deep. Ooh. I was just arriving at that very idea, like 3-dimensional puzzle solving. Ooh, how about this as an idea? At least one character has to stay at the top because they can see through the water, and then the stuff at the bottom of the room that the other players need to interact with, but they can't see it because of magical reasons. Does that work as an idea? I honestly don't know if my ideas are any good at any point. So, but what would they have to do? Like push blocks into place, maybe? I don't know. That seems a bit boring. Bet all this sounds a lot more interesting than your make a key and forge it puzzle that I improvised. None of these are really... It was, but you did find the flaw and exploit it rather quickly, and that you didn't need to mine the metal in any way. So, also you got a sheep out of it, so it's not like anyone's complaining. Well, I don't mind. It's creative problem solving. If any of these puzzles, if the players come up with any, creative solutions to these puzzles, I'm perfectly happy with it. This book is not providing any inspiration. It's good for traps, though. I might make some suitable traps from it and seed them throughout this area. Bear traps of poisonous corpses. That's just not a bad idea. Anyway, so back to what I was doing. Okay, so get rid of that. This flooded room extends easily 20 feet below the level of the water. Door at the far end rests on the water line, covered in a sheet of ice. But it's not actually ice. It's like magical ice. so it won't just shatter with a weapon attack and thereby, bypass the entire room. Oh, even better. Rest on the waterline with no apparent lock or opening mechanism. There we go. I might just have a room in here that the door is just sealed by ice and the players can just shatter the ice to open the door, and with an actual puzzle involved as well if they want to solve it. Okay, so door at the far end of this room is opened by completing the glyph on the floor. PCs must swim down to the glyph and push blocks of stone into the correct position to complete it. Comma. However, PCs underneath the water cannot see the glyph and must be guided by a PC on the surface. And this, much like I don't think any of these other ones will require it, actually. No, they won't. I mean, the Slackwater one might, but this is a good chance to have actual resources that the players can interact with. So I'll probably chop up some index cards and have maybe like a grid with a number of symbols on that the players can manipulate to put into the right position once they figure out what they've got to do. There are, if we have, say, 5 stone blocks with 6 symbols on each. Oh, just use dice in that instance. That might be easier. Yeah. 5 stone blocks with 6 glyph fragments on them. Each of which must be pushed into position and turned to the correct face. And orientation. If using dice, or if using D6, possible solutions include, and then, so there are 5 stone blocks. So we'll have like the corner of the glyph is already there. 1, 3, 4, 2, 6. I don't know why I put a comma. With the blank space being the bit of the glyph that's carved into the ground. Correct orientations are left up to the GM to decide. Yeah, because I don't think I'll be able to get any printer ink in time for this Thursday to print off card and then cut it out and get some blank cubes to make the symbols on. So I might just use dice. What I could do is divide an index card into 6, draw the relevant fragment on that, and then just associate it with each face of the die. That might be easier, so that there is actual visual support for the mechanic of the puzzle. If using D6 with the relevant glyph fragments visible elsewhere. A possible solution might be. And this possible solution is more just for clarification of the idea. Let's put x, and then x equals the glyph fragment carved into the floor. Aha, there we go. So that's a lot better than pressure plates hidden beneath the water. So it would be as in the eyes of the gods. No. Time back to tides and waves. Although high tide works. Chamber of the Risen Tide. Chamber of the Ocean Secrets. That's where I went wrong. Throws me off sometimes. I know that the word's wrong, but I can't at first glance because of the pressure of everything, and I hate reading black and white. It takes me a moment to figure out what is actually wrong. Chamber of the Oceans. Embrace. And put a space there. Yep. Chamber of the Tempest. Please excuse me. Right, so that's 4 puzzles, which in my experience is enough for one session of D&D. Obviously your mileage may vary depending on players and how engaged they are. Trying to think whether it's worth doing another. What I'll do is I'll get some traps sorted. Handy dice tray. Because I've never used these random tables before, so get some traps sorted, maybe some empty chambers with some items in just for narrative fluff, and then continue on from there. So I don't have 3d20 in this dice tray, so darts. Oh, nope. Please, thank you. So that's all. How do I? I'll just click that. It'll be way easier. Chambers. And then that. I'm using aerial in case anyone's curious because I hate Times New Roman with the burning passion of 1,000 fiery suns. I just don't like it for some reason. I've never enjoyed reading Times New Roman. I much prefer the sans fonts. Traps. And then if we take these off, but keep it centered, we'll put it to the left. Put it back to black, and then to be scattered. The worst is Comic Sans. I will correct you on that one. To be scattered throughout connecting corridors. Sorry, I feel very strongly about Comic Sans as well. Okay, so we've got 9 is dots. And then weakening trigger being a steep stair. Docks of weakening. So I'm going to do maybe 3 or 4 traps, do 4 traps, and then convert them from the random 3 random elements of the trap into something that makes sense in narrative. They're all going to deal appropriate damage. And DCs for setback. Yeah, I've done enough graphic design work to have strong feelings about Comic Sans. Pit, well, that works really well in a temple of water, so this would be way easier if I just grabbed another D20, but they're so far away and I'm so lazy. Dominating weapon on altar. Triggered by a weapon on an altar. Oh, traps should be scattered throughout connecting corridors and deal. Oh, and use. We'll say level appropriate. / medium DCs. True. Yeah, if we're not including it, then times is the worst. Oh, I will fight you on that if you disagree, Coerce. Don't get me wrong, I get the point, the purpose of Comic Sans. It's an easily read font. The conversation or what I'm doing actually on screen? Swords. Okay. Just swords. I'm currently making a dungeon. I've got 4 puzzles. I'm doing some traps, and I'll be doing some just pointless rooms with essentially environmental storytelling in. And in chat, we're currently talking about fonts and how certain fonts are inherently worse than others. I was saying, yeah, I get the point of Comic Sans. It is, as I clearly understood and legible. It's just wingdings are pretty cool. I will grant you that one. Fiery, triggered by jeweled. Fiery swords. It won't be swords of fiery. It'll be fiery swords. Fiery swords. Triggered by. What was it? Jeweled pillar. Oh, I'm glad you agree with us. I was just saying why I'm using Arial for this document, because Times New Roman is here, and you can see it. And obviously Times New Roman is the kind of official font. It's there. It's there. I can see it. But I like Helvetica. True. It's not on here, unfortunately. I default to Arial or Calibri because of the curved nature of the letters. Just appeals to me. But Helvetica is a nice font. Oh, whoops. Too many dice. 4 is... Oh. It says bolos. I think it's supposed to say bolus. So that's what I'm going to put. And then 17 and 3. I'm going to reroll that because I've already got something dominating. Oh, well, it's a trap. Is the thing. That was a freezing tripwire. Nope. There we go. And then triggered by tripwire. So if I get rid of that actually and then have a different DC for each. So what would this be? Darts, thin slivers of metal fly out from the step you have just left, piercing the back of your leg. So it would be characters, take 1d4 piercing damage, and must succeed on a Constitution saving throw. I actually really like this way of making a dungeon rather than my usual method. And obviously having you folks in chat to talk with is really helping bounce ideas off of and stuff like that. Which is, why I wanted to start streaming these workshop sessions. Constitution saving throw. If I was going to do that, it would be pretty obvious that there was something wrong with the lever, but I might throw that in there. I'll figure out how to do that idea once I've finished writing this. I put appropriate again so that it's scalable but easy DC. Or have their movement speed decreased by 5 until they regain 1 or more hit points. Which is a mechanic that I'm starting to really feel for, is having an effect that lessens you regain health. That should say triggering characters. And then Fury of the Squall. Yeah, exactly. That's why I enjoy making puzzles for my characters. Just sometimes I struggle to improvise interesting puzzles on the fly, so that's why I'm taking this prep stream to do it. Oops, no. This door lies shut and barred next to a bloodstained lever. Although I think at least 2 of the players have Mage Hand, so that's a thing. But it's an interesting idea to see if they fall for it. Yep, that's good. There's no revealing information on this screen. I was like, wait, is that the best idea? What I'm going to do is open a new document. That was weird. It went purple for some reason. I just call it trap and puzzle ideas. Trap/puzzle ideas. And then copy this over into it. Characters pulling the lever to open the door must make I guess dexterity to release in time. Aim throw. Appropriate / hard DC. Or take I draw kill Foxy. A large amount of damage. / lose their arm. Pulling the lever is the only, we'll put obvious, because creative solutions do occur. Only obvious way to open the door. Because I believe in credit where credit is due, and because I can't think of evocative titles right now, Coercer's Door Trap. Number 1. You can guess what the second one's probably going to be called as well. It's number 2. This door, this is all just for, you know, pros. This is all just pros, so I remember the kind of general gist of the idea I have. This closed door is flanked by a series of levers and pressure plate. It's flanked by a series of levers. Pressure plates nearby. Rest under gaping holes in the ceiling. The levers surrounding the door are useless / trapped. GM's discretion. And the PCs are not heavy enough on their own to weigh down the pressure plates. All of this is reminding me of a story I read online where the party were in a dungeon and they came to a magically sealed door and they had to figure out the password for the door. And the password for the door was just door, because the GM figured that they would at some point say in character something about the door. And in the half an hour that they did take to solve the puzzle, no one said door once. Like half an hour real time. Or an hour or something stupid. How would that work? So would activating the actual switch lock the pressure plates into position? I'm so confused. Which one? Which one? Oh, I see. I see. So is the pitfall related to the vertical stone door then? Okay, that makes sense. The switch for the switch to release the stone weights is hidden on the ceiling. Appropriate / hard DC. 20-foot high ceiling. And then I will get back to my actual document after this, but this was a really cool idea and I want to make a note of it. I might just have a kobold trapsmith in this world called Coercers now, if that's fine by you. I realise there are 3 Zs in your name. It's a revolving door, but horizontal rather than... I gotcha. This stone slab blocks all progress, and rocks slowly backwards and forwards around a pivot, around a central pivot, in an unseen wind. In an unseen wind. Yeah, so player characters. Oh, why am I typing that out? PCs. PCs must push the top of the slab forwards and thus cross the threshold at the top of the doorway, attempting to push the bottom or sliding off of the slab results in a pit trap opening beneath the slab. PCs may be caught and hurt / killed by the revolving slab. Like that? Does that work for you? I'll be honest, if I put these into my game, I'll probably tone them down a little bit, unless we're kind of in an explicitly you're going to die scenario for a one-shot. But I do like the core ideas. I'm going to go back to this. For now, anyway. Shen is a harsh mistress. Oops. A pit of clear glowing water. Glowing. A pit of clear glowing water opens when an item is removed from the altar. Its merest touch fogs your mind. PCs moving an item from an altar. Let's succeed on a dexterity saving throw. Appropriate / easy DC. What even was I doing with that word? Or fall into a shallow pool of water. PCs entering the water become charmed by the first inhabitant of the dungeon they encounter as per the charmed condition. That's that. Fiery swords. That's more lightning bolts. How would that tie into a jeweled pillar? Well, come from the jewels. Trapped lightning. That's a great idea. I will attend to this after I get this idea down. The jewels on this pillar flicker with an inner light. PCs approaching the pillar may make an investigation check. Appropriate / easy DC. To notice the jewels are lit by lightning bolts trapped within them. PCs touching the pillar take 1dx, where x equals setback trap damage reduced by 1 step. And PCs removing a jewel take 1dy, where I realize I need to specify damage, where y equals setback trap damage plus 2. Lightning damage. Lightning famage, even better. I think it's just great that this PDF that I'm using for these traps includes the damage severity by level and DCs from Xanathars, so it's all in one place, so I don't have to keep flicking between PDFs. So get rid of that one, and then whoops. This isn't really a door trap. We'll say door puzzle, maybe. Oh no, that's even better. Room puzzle. Do you have any preference for what colored scale the kobold I'm making based on your suggestions is? Door to this circular room disappears as the last of you enters, leaving you trapped with no seeming way of egress. Torch is set into the walls at human waist height, which is low enough that it should seem odd, I think, and provide some clues to the fact that you have to be on the walls. Illuminate a stone pillar in the center of the room, carved with a strange spiral pattern. PCs must attach a rope to a block of stone. To the pillar, even. And run in a circle. I just put wall run in a circle. Well, that's why I've got the little bits of narrative prose, just to kind of remind me of what I could draw, if I could draw, of the situation when I use it. Or in a circle. Shortening the rope, but allowing, I guess, vertical progress to be made is the best way to put it. To be made. I realize I could just do this as well. Just put some commas to, oh, even better, slashes to separate chat entries, message entries. Ah, crud. There we go. See notes for clarification. That's a bit of a hard one to summarize, but there we go. I just copy your actual words. Okay, freezing bows triggered by tripwire. Okay, I think I'm just not going to do anything terribly fancy with these. I can't think of a name right now, so I'll just go straight to the prose. As you brush the thin steel wire with your foot, a mechanism activates and 2 shards of ice connected by a thick chain wrap around your shins. And of course, spotting with unused level appropriate DCs to spot / disarm. So triggering characters. I'll just copy this from here. Or fall prone. And take 1dx. Exit setback trap damage reduced by 1 step. +2. Where so it would be d6 +2, etc. Or d8 +2 for a setback trap. Reduced by 1. Reduced by 1 step. Taking half damage and remaining standing on a success. characters who fail must succeed on a strength check. I'll have this as a medium DC. There we go. Appropriate / medium DC, or take an additional 1d(x) plus, nope, plus 2 cold damage. I really realize I need to add that damage type up there. I'll take an additional 1d(x) plus 2 cold damage at the start of there. Yep, I knew that was wrong. I was like, that's wrong, isn't it? Of their next turn. And be restrained. Continuing to take 1d(x) plus 2 cold damage until the condition is cleared. By succeeding on the strength check or through other means. Characters who fail must use an action to attempt a strength check. Take an additional plus 2 cold damage at start of the next turn and be restrained. Blah blah blah. Characters who succeed have advantage on this strength check. So the bonus still is wrapped around them, but they're in a better position to get rid of it. And the X plus 2 cold damage. Clear that up. So, traps. Oh, get rid of this. Fury of the Squall. Triggering characters take d4 piercing damage and must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or have movement speed decreased by 5 until they regain 1 or more hit points. The options are Harsh Mistress. PCs removing an item from an altar. I guess from the altar. Must succeed on Dexterity saving throw. Appropriate / ECDC, because the resulting condition could screw them over. Or fall into a shallow pool of water. PCs entering the water become charmed by the first inhabitant of the dungeon they encounter, as per the charm condition. Trap lightning. PCs approaching the pillar may make an investigation check to notice the jewels are lit by lightning bolts trapped within them. PCs touching the pillar. That could be an investigation or a perception check, to be fair. PCs touching the pillar take 1d(x) lightning damage. PCs removing a jewel take even more lightning damage. And then I need a name for this one. If anyone has any ideas. Arctic Snare, why not? There we go. And then... I always feel like I'm not paying enough attention to chat. And if I'm not, please tell me so that I know it's something I can work on. It's just mundane rooms now. Got 4 traps, 4 puzzles, so we'll go with 4 mundane rooms. Oops, too far. That one. Mundane rooms. Haha. Right, so what do I need for these? Let's have 1 random monument, shall we? So we've got ghoulish, shattered, acid. Okay, so a shattered skeletal figurehead rests in the center of a pool of bubbling, acrid liquid. Center of a pool of bubbling liquid, comma, from which an acrid fog obscures the floor of this room. And then yeah, I like it being a figurehead. Sure, we'll have one weapon. Oh, oops, what am I doing? This one first. So oops, a pile of weapons is scattered across the floor of this room. Be a pile of rusty weapons they scattered across the floor of this room. A successful investigation check. Appropriate / medium DC. Reveals an ornately crafted dagger with a spiderweb design etched into the blade. Oh, a pile of rust weapons. A pile of rusty weapons they scattered across the floor of this room, spilling from a broken chest. I like to have something in a room, even if it's not related in any way to the actual thing. Successful investigation / perception check reveals a fragment of a ship's hull. Oh, that needs an apostrophe. Bearing the name Wrath of even better, Umblee's Beneficence, because I find that funny. And then 2 just mundane objects, mundane items, sorry. Yep. Actually, if I roll all this together, so we've got 32, 10, and 4. Undead smooth disc. This small room is furnished only with a work table and bench. Any of the items and equipment on the work table have been lost to the ravages of time, but a smooth disc carved with a disquieting unknown language rests among the clutter. Rests among the what's the word? You know, I can't remember the word. Debris. That's the one. I always do that. Successful investigation slash perception check reveals the disc smells of blood and seems to continuously drip with the same liquid. And then a successful Arcana check reveals, necromantic runes carved into the disc. And then fourth mundane room, sorry, with an item in it. I might come back to this later in the week and have other rooms, but this isn't supposed to be a combat encounter. It's supposed to be like a small escape passage, so for my purposes anyway. 87, 6 and 3, so it will be an unholy rough. Oops. Too far. Stone. Nope, not B. I. The ceiling of this room has partially collapsed, allowing an ankle-deep layer of water to spread from the doorway. That's what I was going to say. From the doorway. Successful investigation / perception. A roughly carved stone that is warm to the touch. Buried among the rubble. A successful Arcana check, or religion. Arcana / religion check reveals infernal runes carved into the stone, and magical effects revealing things such as fiendish energies, desecration, negative energy, or unhallowed presence, unhallowed objects. Reveal this stone to possess energy drawn from the 9 hells. And any of these could serve as, plot hooks in their own right. So we've got a shattered skeletal figurehead rests in the center of a pool of bubbling liquid from which an acrid fog obscures the floor of this room. A successful investigation perception check reveals a fragment of a ship's hull bearing the name Umbly's Beneficence. Pile of rusty weapons lay scattered across the floor of this room, spinning from a broken chest, which reveals an lightly crafted dagger with a spiderweb design etched into the blade. This small room is furnished only with a work table and bench. A work table and a bench. Many of the items and equipment on the work table have been lost to ravages of time, but a smooth disc carved with a disquieting unknown language rests among the debris, which reveals the disc smells of blood and seems to continuously drip the same liquid. A successful Arcana check reveals necromantic runes. And the ceiling of this room is partially collapsed, allowing an ankle-deep layer of water to spread from the doorway. Roughly carved stone warm to touch is buried among the rubble. There are infernal runes carved into the stone, and it possesses energy drawn from the 9 hells. So I've got traps, mundane rooms with something cool in them, and 4 puzzle chambers. These I might alter for my own purposes later in the week, before Thursday, before I need them, or I will make it clear what part of this small escape complex they served. Or the original temple, I guess they served. But for now, I'm happy with it. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. I'm just going to put that on that page for my own personal benefit. Nope. There we go. But for now, I'm happy with it. Thank you, everyone in chat, for your help. Thank you, everyone who's been lurking, who's been having me on in the background, who's been interacting. That's the word. I do appreciate it. YouTube, I hope you've enjoyed that. I will try and put the link for this document in the YouTube description after giving it a once over. So look forward to that. This video will go up on YouTube tomorrow now, probably. So YouTube, until next time, see you. Oh, and if you want to take part in these videos, please do swing by twitch.tv/ComradeBubbles to help out with the workshop aspect. I couldn't have done a lot of this cool stuff without chat, so thank you.